A broad outline of the Trans-Pacific Partnership will be presented to the leaders of the 21 economies during the APEC Leaders Summit over the weekend. Leaders of both countries view the region as an engine of world economic recovery.
But how many of their ideas will become reality?
Students wait for a congressional fix on their federal loan interest rates finally appears to be nearing an end. Tens of thousands of people are expected to gather on the National Mall, marching and celebrating. The royal couple is having their big day more than 5,000 miles from here.
The center is letting us test the system, and my colleague Miranda Shack is calling 120, and we can instantly see a sign here.
Here in my hand is a sensor that can read the temperature outside, and over there is a sensor that reads the temperature near the sprayers. The capsules have curtains instead of doors. The manager says that makes it easier for people to get out quickly if there's a fire. We're not sure what is burning yet, but it looks like pretty much the same as the rubber at the gate. That white boat with flags, it's actually the Marine Authority's recovery ship.
It was actually first found by their neighbors, and they say usually people in that building got up around 6 in the morning.
Behind me, there are a lot of visitors lining up or just wandering around trying to get a glimpse of the first day of the Shanghai Expo.
The architect earned a doctorate degree in Shanghai's Tongji University in year 2000 and did design a gallery that opened the same year on the 12th floor of the building behind me. This place on East Nanjing Road later turned into a pub and is now closed.
They're 250 miles above the Earth right now. They're traveling along at 17,500 miles an hour.
What could be cooler than watching a live spacewalk?
Why do you think that adventure, exploration, and being curious is important?
And have your questions answered by recently returned spacewalker.
We will have to leave this planet, and these are just the first little baby steps.
NASA astronaut Thomas Marshburn talked to students Tuesday at the museum, while two of his colleagues were actually conducting a spacewalk.
One of the most important things you can do in a spacewalk, and that is to attach your safety tether. It's not a space shuttle. If somebody comes loose and floats free into the vacuum of space, they're an orbiting satellite and they will die.
Just about 2 months ago, Marshburn would have been on the screen.
And it's off to start the day.
The 52-year-old has been in space twice with 4 spacewalks. But it is not space that made him nervous. It was not blowing what he was doing.
There we go. Just need a little tug.
Having done your homework the night before, but you have a lot of scientists and engineers waiting to see the results of the experiment and working through fairly complex things that we have to do up there in the laboratory. That's actually probably one of the scarier moments.
The secret to his space success?
Just get focused. Don't guess, just ask the ground.
Do you want to return to space?
Most people that go to space want to go back, and I'd love to go back. Another thing I'd love to do is to capture a vehicle, a cargo vehicle that's bringing our supplies. Flew the arm to grab the satellite from free space and bring it in to attach it to the space station.
But today, the only thing he had to grab was the attention of the students. This is Song Wei Li with Model News Service reporting from Makachi.
Any questions about that earliest time?
These people are learning the history of a city that used to have swampy lands on the west and dunes on the east.
The Native Americans kind of
The middle was home to Native Americans and later turned into 2 villages. Today it's a city named Evanston.
I'd never heard that, the way the city is arranged and the way the streets are angled, which I knew you were never going straight north or south like on Ridge or Chicago, but I didn't know that those were following Native American lines.
Well, I did know there was a north and a south, and when they joined and how they joined and the water issue was really fascinating.
Oh, 1981. Yeah.
They learned from a guided tour in honor of the 150th anniversary of Evanston's incorporation in 1863. Laurie Osborne from the Evanston History Center wanted visitors to travel back to the very early days.
A lot of people maybe don't know the stories of the earliest part of their community and know more recent history, things that they have experienced themselves. So we decided to focus on the early times and also things that people might not realize.
Today's Evanston is of course very different from what it was 150 years ago. As people learn about the history, they also witness some of the community changes. A big one happened right here in downtown.
When we moved here in 1977, it was a pretty sleepy town. One of the nice big changes is the Cinemark, the movie theater, because it's drawn people from all over the area, hopefully a lot of tax dollars to Evanston.
If you feel like having a brief on Evanston's past, the center offered a guided tour once every month throughout the year. In Evanston, Song Wei Li, 433 News.
When dealing with numbers, most people these days will turn to calculators or computers. But 4 vocational schools in Shanghai have now been selected as training centers for the Asian abacus in an effort to have it listed as a World Intangible Cultural Heritage by the United Nations. Li Zhongwei checked on whether the Asian skill is still useful today.
Students in this school gave us a demonstration of abacus calculation, adding 50 numbers together. It took Chen Shifeng 1 minute and 50 seconds.
If it's adding 1 to 100, it takes me about 2 or 3 minutes. After graduation, I hope I can make it within 1 minute.
As one of the centers selected by the city's Abacus Calculation Association a month ago, this school offers abacus classes to all its 2,000 students with an accounting major. Teachers say top calculators can do addition and subtraction faster in their hands than by inputting all those numbers to a computer. But the question is, do people still bother using mental arithmetic?
A certificate of abacus calculation won't directly lead to a job offer, but many banks list abacus calculation as a required skill during employees' orientation. It helps develop a good sense of numbers, which is what banks mostly need.
Li says students in his school join abacus calculation contests every year, contests that include participants from other parts of Asia, such as Singapore and Japan. 10 years ago, many kindergarten children were learning how to use an abacus, but Shanghai educational authorities later dropped it along with some English and math lessons to reduce the pressures on such young kids. But many parents want their children to learn the skill and are sending them to training centers like this one in Huangpu District.
I heard that kids who learn the abacus could do mental calculation 5 times faster than other children, and it turned out to be true with my daughter. She's good at it.
The Abacus Calculation Association says there are 3,000 to 4,000 children studying the skill every semester, and teachers say parents should look beyond just what it teaches about numbers.
Abacus training starts with a real abacus and involves practicing coordination of the hands, brain, and eyes. But when a student reaches a certain level, the abacus is taken away and one has to make the moves in his or her mind. This is helpful in geometry and in the development of the imagination.
Wei says the skill also requires quick reactions, strong mental self-discipline, and attention to detail. If the skill is eventually listed as part of the world's intangible cultural heritage, the national government will provide a subsidy to ensure it's passed on. Li Zhongwei, Shanghai Live.